man.
Thank y'all for joining the podcast. That's it.
Yeah, man. Do you even want to go into the episode?
I think this is gonna be the shortest podcast.
This
ever.
might be the longest podcast ever. Actually, if we go into a topic,
I actually don't care. I'm not gonna stop it.
Well,
before we go, because I know we're about to get started. As always, this podcast is on all streaming platforms.
Yeah.
It's under He's the Pastor, I'm the Rapper podcast. If you are listening to this right now, please rate and review us. It helps us. It helps people find us. With that being said, I think the last time we had 9 ratings. We now have 11 ratings. So shout out to y'all for everyone who took the time out to rate us. We're all 5 stars, and we thank you for that. We have another review from someone named Edge X. The title of it is Blessing. It said, "It's such a blessing as a Christian and rap fan to have this podcast to hear fellow believers speak on topics I don't get to with current circles. Keep it." It says 2 fellas, but I'm pretty sure he meant to say "keep it up, fellas." Okay. Exclamation mark. So thank you, Edge X. Thank you for everyone who took the time out to rate us, and please rate and review this podcast. It helps us out so much.
Definitely helps us out. So y'all know this is the He's the Pastor, I'm the Rapper podcast. And one of the things we talk about a lot is the church. It's about Christian hip hop, about artistry, about culture. And Ty and I were having a conversation, and we were wondering if we could go deeper in this conversation about the relationship or the lack of relationship.
There we go.
I don't know, between the church and Christian artists.
Yeah.
And when we say Christian artists.
Or musicians.
Yeah. Well, I kind of include them as artists.
Got you.
You know?
You're right.
But like, you know, I have always, I think growing up, I always saw some of the best artists and the best musicians come out of churches. Like, I mean, whoever it was who could sing, who could blow. I remember being in high school and hearing girls sing and thinking like, yo, she can sing. And then you see her at First Baptist such and such, and you're like, oh, that's why she could sing. She came from the church. Or like the dude who could shed on the set, bro, was always.
Or the keys.
Or the keys.
You want the best keys players? Go to a church.
They don't even
preferably a Baptist church. Don't keys.
That's right. Hit that joint with their elbow. All kinds of stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
So, you know, I always felt like the church produced the best musicians. But then, like, as a pastor, I've kind of struggled, like, figuring that whole thing out. Like, currently we don't have musicians at our church, and we know other churches.
Slap in the face to me. Keep talking.
Well, we don't have musicians, not artists. We have artists at our church.
Okay.
We don't have musicians at our church.
All right.
And Ty is in our church, but he has not performed yet. So that's on him. But yeah, man. And I didn't realize it until I got older that there was kind of like an unspoken rift between artists and musicians in the church. Had you observed that? Like, have you experienced that or seen that? With
musicians, yeah. So like, for the musicians, it seems like it's like a work for hire. Like, the musicians usually at the church, they're just
that's the culture.
Yeah, they, like the drummers, specifically the drummers and the keys player, they have them. They'll pay them to be there for the services, and then after that, you don't really see them like serving. I'm not knocking y'all. This is just my
observation.
Yeah, my observation of it. So please, if there's ones out there doing that, thank you. But for what I've seen, you see them. They're there for 2, maybe 3 services. They get paid and they're out. And you can tell they're not really involved with the church or with what's going on with the pastor preaching or whatnot. Because after they're done doing what they were paid to do, they're like on their phones or they're not really there. They're there to do their job, but that's what they were paid to do. So yeah.
Have you seen the clip that went viral recently of, I think it was Bishop Paul Morton?
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, you don't know who Bishop Paul Morton is?
I don't, and I don't know if I'm supposed to know.
Okay, I'm not going to shame you. You know who PJ Morton is?
Yes.
Okay.
His father.
I
put it together, guys. I did it.
But Bishop Paul Morton is he's a really big name pastor in the black church. But there was this clip that went viral recently because he was in the pulpit preaching, and I think the musicians were like leaving, and he just like started going after them like, nah, y'all need to hear this too. I'm sick of this. You know, he just goes in on them. And that's not my first time seeing something like that, you know? And I just remember reading the comments and it was so split. Like there were some people, usually the pastors, who were like, nah, I don't see nothing wrong with what he did. And then there were some people who were like, a pastor, just because you're a pastor don't mean you could talk to people like that. And you know, the musicians do so much for the church, and without the church you wouldn't even have, without the musicians you wouldn't even have a church. And man, it was like wildly interesting to me. I hate that you haven't seen that clip. I should have showed you that clip before we started.
But you know, I'm gonna clip it up. I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna clip it up and I'm gonna watch it.
Insert clip here. Nah, we still rolling.
I had to go along.
Yo, if you're listening on Spotify or whatever your listening platform
I apologize.
I apologize.
Shameless plug coming out this Friday. Keep talking,
yeah,
my
this
brother.
Friday. But man, like, man, you spoke to something that's really, I think it's my experience too, is like seeing this culture of this work for hire thing.
Yeah.
You know, where well, at least in Daytona, at least in Central Florida, like it is like, you know, the first question is, are you available? And then the first question they respond with is how much you paying, you know? And unfortunately, if you're a smaller church or you're a church plant and you don't have a big budget, you don't really have the opportunity to get quality musicians, you know, because, you know, you can't pay as much. And there are some musicians, honestly, out there that are getting paid way more than I am. Like, as a pastor, like get paid way more than I am. So I have a hard time like just kind of like figuring out what it should be like.
I mean, I'm just going to speak on the Christian perspective of it. In a perfect Christian world, I think we should be looking out for the people that's serving in the church that has some kind of music inclination and putting those people in those positions. But outside of that perfect Christian world, I see why pastors do the work for hire, because you want music of excellence being played.
Yeah.
I can see the downside of that too. Is like, all right, it'd be so much better if you guys are like really like you had a heart for the church, you serve for the church, and you're doing this. That would be so great. But for the pastors, they're trying to set the tone for worship. And you want it to be done in excellence. So, you know, like you can have someone that's in the church doing it that, you know, they probably took some piano lessons in high school or something like that. Someone who could keep beat on the drums, and it's like it could get done, but is it going to be like the greatest? Yeah. And if you want the greatest, they may not be in your church, so you may have to go do some. Yeah. So it's a dichotomy there, man.
It's like the NBA. It's like whoever got the most money, we about to make this super team. Like, come on.
Exactly.
You on the keys, here go your 50. Here go you on the drum, here go your 25. You know, it's like they paying everybody. Like I know, right. I remember talking to a guy and he said when you're budgeting for your church, you budget your pastor's salary, and then after that you budget your musicians.
Wow.
And then everything else. And he's like, if you want the experience, you got to do it that way. And I remember thinking like, yo, that's kind of whack.
It's extremely whack.
But I'm just going to be honest with y'all. We tried it. We tried the opposite, I would say, of like not wanting
as in identity. Meeting 3 times a week on Zoom. One time a week in person.
Just check us out. Just check us out on our website, identitydaytona.org.
Bro, don't mess my spill up. I do this. I ain't did it in the past 2 episodes.
Because the schedule might change. That's the only reason why I say that. But by the time they hear this, it might be different.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Coming up July 2nd.
There we go with the plug. Here we go. But we tried to do it without, you know, without bringing in big time musicians that we had to pay a lot, right? And people just aren't attracted to that. You know what I mean? Unless they just have a deep, deep love for Jesus and they just don't care, you know, like, and I think that comes a little bit with spiritual maturity, where you can say, I'm willing to lack a little bit in worship so that I can be around a community of people who believe in the word and, you know, are actively doing things as a church family. But for the most part, yo, people be like, yo, I want to hear good preaching and good worship. Like they don't want to pull away from that.
Is that a problem?
All. I think it is. I definitely think it is.
I feel like, and because of society, especially I don't want to even say this black culture, church culture in America. The two things people go to church for is the preaching and the praise and worship, like you said.
That's why
that's what people think church is.
Yeah, that's why you see guys like Chandler Moore, Jonathan McReynolds, all of these big name gospel artists will get pulled into these huge churches, you know, because they know, one, they can get paid a lot of money to be there, and then two, it's like a wild amount of exposure for them, right? So it's like, if I'm an independent gospel artist right now, the best thing I can do is get into a mega church, because you're building that fan base right there, and you could put out a record, and you have, like, let's say Chandler Moore. If he's at a mega church that's averaging 15,000 people a weekend, it's almost a guarantee that 10,000 people are going to be listening to his music, right? So you got an automatic fan base. Now, I mean, I'm not demonizing any of this. We're just breaking it down. Like, we're talking through it. But I want to get another perspective too. And the other perspective is, for pastors, it's really tough. Like, because we want to care for the body. Like, we don't want to hire an external thing to do something for the body that should be happening within the body.
Correct.
And I think where my argument would lie would be, or where I kind of struggle with it and where my argument will fall, is thinking about how God designed how worship should happen when everything was organized in the temple, right? So you get these musicians that are there to serve the body, but these musicians are not paid. These musicians are a part of the priesthood. The musicians were typically Levites. Well, if you're a Levite, what do you know about what the Levites received of their inheritance? Levites didn't get land. They didn't get an opportunity to build wealth. What they got was an opportunity to be cared for by the people.
Yeah.
So I do believe in two things. I think musicians should be cared for by the people if they are performing in a way that is actually shepherding the people towards worship, which means they have to be involved. Correct. Like, they have to be a part of the community, because if they're not, they're just work for hire. They're just hired hands. And the Bible doesn't really give us a description for that. You know, like, even in the New Testament, it paints the picture that whomever's there is just, yo, if it's 10 of us here and nobody, you know, is an excellent piano player, they didn't have a piano back then, but we just all lift our voices. Like, we just do congregational worship. And I think on one hand, churches have to be less afraid of that. And then on the other hand, churches have to be more willing to say, if you're going to be here, you're going to be a part of what we're doing.
And that's I think that's a bold stance. And I would love to see that. Bro, I mean, I don't know if I'm biased. Like, I love the way that we do it. Like, I know we, you know, sometimes we'll have the praise and worship, you know, via YouTube, or I forgot your boy name. He was talking in the Facebook Live, but if he wants to lead praise and worship,
Kobe, like,
yeah, it may not be the greatest thing, but it's like you still appreciate it, because, like, bro, like, I know you, like, you're serving with us, so it's like, I don't know if that's maybe just my personality, just how I like things, but it's like it just feels so much better, because the people that's leading praise and worship, if it's not from the YouTube, it's for someone that's serving with the body. So
here's my question, though. I mean, I know you appreciate it. I think I appreciate it. What about the visitor, the guest who walks in?
That's where it could go south. So it's like, because of church culture in America or in the West, the two things that people go to church for is the preaching and the praise and worship. Yeah. So like you say, when we get the Connect finally open, and say we are doing that, we got Kobe up there, but someone they're used to the theatrics when it's, you know, praise and worship. The lights dim down.
You need a Chandler Moore.
Yeah, shout out to Chandler Moore. Like, if you don't have that, it's like, dang, like, the preacher was phenomenal, but the praise and worship, I ain't really feel it. So it's like people will actually not go to a church if the praise and worship is there, and it's like, I don't.
What about, though? Let's flip it on its head, because I've heard other musicians say that pastors and churches pimp out musicians, and they don't care for the musicians well. They don't care for their needs, and they don't, do anything for them that is valuable. Like, how do you speak to that? Especially you as an artist and you as a person who, cares about your craft and all of that. This man care more about the Bible.
I care more about the Bible, but I guess it's about to get touchy because.
Okay, let me turn the music down.
Nah, because of the churches that have. All right, you guys. Again, I'm a part of a Christian hip hop collective. We go out to churches to minister, minister, and it seems like as Christian hip hop artists, we get the low end of the stick. For example, if a John Wiles was coming and going to another church, 9 times out of 10 they're going to give him the opportunity to minister in front of the congregation, to lead praise and worship or whatnot. So
John Wiles ain't gotta entertain the youth group.
It's like if we come to the church, well, automatically Vacation Bible School, you got the Wednesday night. So when the adults they're in the main service, you could go to the youth on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like we're adults ourselves, we're young adults ourselves, and it's like, again, it's fun, but it's like our music is not just for the youth, but it's like because hip hop is demonized. I don't think the church has fully accepted Christian hip hop as a thing that's going to minister to the church overall. They're still trying to work that out. So it's like, yeah, you could come in here, but we're going to put you to the youth, and that is kind of disheartening. Like, go ahead.
Let me push against that a little bit. Could it not just be that hip hop is so young as a art form, right? So like, if we're thinking about not Christian hip hop, which is even younger, but hip hop in itself is only about 40 years old, 45 years old, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a young art form. Like, could it be that the church is just trying to catch up to what this very young art form is?
But bro, hold on. It's kind of hard I hear that argument, but I don't know. I'm processing it right now. Think about rap. It's only maybe 10 years older than hip hop?
Well, no. I'm just saying, I'm not separating rap and hip hop. I'm saying like hip hop in general. So like, if we think about the creation of the hip hop era, which happens in the late 70s, right?
Correct.
So that would make it about 43, 44, 45 years old.
Correct.
Rap comes, like what we think of rap comes a couple years later, and then Christian rap comes probably about 15 years after that. So all of that is still pretty young. Like, we're thinking 45 years for a entity that's been around for 2,000 years.
But look at mainstream music in the totality of like, mainstream music ain't really start popular. Like people listening and taking in music the way we take, via radio and movies and stuff like that was around maybe like the 20s and the 30s. Because film was like taking off in the 20s. So I'll say even the 30s. So it's only like 40. Music in general, the way we take in music, mainstream, it's only like 20 or 30 years older than hip hop in itself. So it's like, I hear that argument, but it's music at the
but the reason why I say that is because if you look at trends in music in the church is almost always late on everything. So like, you get jazzy chords and all that stuff that come back into the church somewhere around like the 60s and 70s. But it's being recycled from stuff that happened in the 40s and 50s.
Got you.
And,
I got you now.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
we catching up.
So I feel like the church is always playing catch up with what's hot in culture. So could it not just be that since hip hop and Christian hip hop is so new to, like, generally, that they don't know what to do with it? So they're like, let's just give it to the people who understand it, the kids.
That could be it. Because
I ain't want to like shoot down your argument.
No, you're not shooting down, bro. This whole thing is a conversation. It's not shooting down anything. That could be it. I'm not on that side. I'm just speaking from the artist side of it. because I know, me and my homies that rap, we've talked about this, and it's like, it's like we want the opportunity, just like you said, the praise and worship leaders, they I'm not gonna say that they go to mega churches just for the exposure, but it is an exposure thing.
Yeah.
So it's like we're trying to get our music out there too, and it's like there's only maybe even in the mega churches, maybe 50 people, kids in the adult ministry.
Yeah.
How many of those people do you think really going to support your music on a financial way? They're going to listen to it.
Yeah.
But it's like if we had the opportunity to perform in front of the congregation, just like you said, we maybe could get a couple more streams or people that's going to. For a great example, there's a hip hop church. I can't remember the name of the church in Tampa.
Yeah. Man, I hate you did this to me because I could name them any
day of the week. They have
Flavor
Fest. We're actually going to be there too.
Flavor Fest. Shout out to Pastor Tommy. Yeah.
Pastor Tommy. Yeah. Darnell, shout out to Darnell.
Crossover Church.
There you go, Darnell.
Crossover Church.
Darnell Butler is the praise and worship. Well, I think he just got a lead pastor role there too, if I'm not mistaken. Darnell Butler. Sure. Excuse me for that, but we performed there. That was probably our first time ever, and I've been doing cruises. 2013? I'm talking about age now, but that's our first time. That was our first time ever performing in front of the congregation, not just a youth event or the youth, and that felt so good because afterwards we sold out all of our merch. Yeah. People they were eager to buy. We didn't have any physical copies, but people were playing our music. We did have our music on streaming platforms. We had like a little small, I don't want to say a follower, but people that were interested in us, but it helped us financially versus when we just go to the youth. It's just, all right, thank y'all for coming out type thing. So it's like, we want that same opportunity too.
I dig that. And shout out to Crossover because they've been doing that for years.
Yeah, thank y'all.
They put on Lecrae and Trip. KB. They put on KB. They put on a lot of Social Club. They put on a lot of these Christian hip hop artists that we know of. And yeah, I do believe that if churches have bandwidth for that, they should do that. They should allow for any artist to be able to use their gifts in front of the church, right? Specifically artists who are Christian hip hop artists, because it's such a small, playing field in that. So like your church should be the one thing promoting you. And what's crazy now that we're talking about this is if like there are so many churches that get behind a worship CD or a worship artist that's there and push it as that, but they don't do the same. You're right. They don't do the same with a Christian hip hop artist.
They would have a whole night for them.
Yeah.
Like, again, I'm not.
Or like a live recording night. Or,
correct. And then afterwards, that artist would have their CDs and everybody that come out to the event, they support them financially. As an artist, that's appreciative. It's like, as Christian hip hop artists, why can't we get that same love?
Yeah.
You just broke on something we never thought of. Maybe they were playing catch up. They don't know what to do with this.
I think that's very much it. Like I think a lot of churches just don't know what to do with it. They're trying to appease. To be honest, they're trying to appease the people who are giving, who are serving, who are constant. And if you're at a church where the people who are giving, serving, and consistent are the older people, then it could get a little weird. You
don't want to run them away.
Yeah. Whereas like if you're playing to the younger people who are not giving, who are not serving, and not consistent, which that's not all the time. That's just like the usual, right?
Correct.
Then you're like appeasing the minority instead of majority. Man, it's that gets a little weird to me, but I get it.
Just one more time, because again, I don't know. I until this conversation, I never really thought about the importance of that. Crossover, I want to thank you. Like, bro,
shout out to Crossover.
They literally they had praise and worship before the pastor went up doing tithe offering for all 3 services. They had us come up, perform during the tithe and offering service right before Pastor Tommy came up. That was so big, and it's like we've never had that done besides Crossover. So thank y'all for doing that.
Yeah,
it meant a lot. So,
well, they'll do it at Identity at some point.
Oh man, I'm knocking the Identity. Thank y'all.
Yeah, man. So another part of that though is kind of like what I just said in a sense. Like, I think there are some pastors out there that just don't feel like if they have a Christian artist in their church, that Christian artist is really a part of their church.
Yep.
Like they feel like the Christian artist may just be there to get some teaching, or in some cases, the Christian artist might be there to just receive some level of validation, because it's easier to say, yeah, I'm a legit Christian artist. I go to such and such church, rather than being a part of the body. So like, have you seen that? Like, what is that like? How do you feel about that? What should the relationship be like between the church and a Christian artist?
One, I think any artist, Christian artist rather, I think you should be a part of a church community serving above anything else. That I think that's important. In doing that, that's going to cause for good habits or good servitude when you're going to visit other churches or going to minister to other churches. I know from personal experiences, going out to different churches, say it is a youth night and they have 3 or 4 artists on the docket. If the artist goes up with their band or whatnot, they do what they have to do and they out of there as soon as they get done performing.
Yeah.
That's sad as me. That's sad as the people that I rap with. And just from watching that over the years and from listening to Eric Thomas, I know personally when I go out with the group of people that I rap with, we make sure, well, if we can help it, we try to get there before they or even started the event to try to help serve before the event. We do our thing and we make sure we stay throughout the whole thing to support everyone that's there and to support the event. And afterwards, we do our best to try to serve afterwards. We feel like that's important because, again, we're Christians before we are artists.
Right.
And we want to serve. But as Byron is saying, I just know over the years going out to certain events, not all, but a lot of artists, you could tell that they're there to do their gifting and then they're out. And it saddens me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had any personal experience on that.
Well, I kind of do have some experiences on that. I want to take some time to like make room for other people who have opinions on it. So I hit my boy King Chav up. Mm-hmm. He's a Christian hip hop artist. He is involved in a church. And I asked him the question. I wanted to see what his point of view was because different artists have different points of view about this particular thing. And what he said to me was, I think artists need to really be active participants in the local church. One, because it gives them responsibility and discipline. Which you kind of spoke of. And it also calls for accountability, which a lot of artists currently lack. Like, and being honest, like artists are going on the road, they're doing shows, they're, in studios, and a lot of the times they don't have a good amount of accountability there for their life. And he hits on that. And then he says, ideally, it gives them a fellowship and a community to lean on when times are tough, because as a Christian hip hop artist or a Christian artist, period, times get tough. Like you feel a lot of times, like, you might get show money once, for 2 months and then not get no show money. You might have to work at FedEx, to fill the gaps in whatever's happening with your career. And you need a base to kind of lean on that. But look, he gives the other side too, which I kind of like. He says the church, especially urban churches, need to be way more active in uplifting and promoting artists.
Thanks.
We are in an age of hip hop. It literally influences everything. It should be embraced and cultivated and not shunned or put on the back burner or as something for the kids. Shout out to King Chav.
And this was not planned, y'all.
This was not planned. I literally just opened the message and read it live. So, yeah.
I want to read one too.
Okay.
There's an artist on the come up. His name is Caleb Gordon. I don't actually want to I'll put it on the screen, but I give the general what he was saying. So, I asked him like, what was his experience as being a Christian hip hop artist with the church? Like, what is your relationship? What is the experiences that you have? And pretty much, his pastor helps him with his career right now, so he supports him in the career. And Caleb is also serving at the church that he's in. Actually, when I put the message up, he said he was rushing because he was in the middle of doing the front of the house mixing for the church.
Wow.
So he was trying to mix and type me at the same time. Man, he's on the come up right now, so he's serving his local body, and it shows in his music and just in his life if you follow him. So Caleb Gordon.
Yeah, that's super dope, man. I love it. I truly want to see the relationship between the church and all artists improve. Like whether it's, somebody who's just playing on a Sunday or whether it's somebody who is a singer. You might not even be a gospel singer. You might be an R&B or a neo soul artist or a rock singer. I don't know. You could
Anything.
just anything. Like if you're an artist, I want to see the relationship be better between the artist and the church. You could be a Christian hip hop artist. I want to see the relationship between the church and those artists get better. And the way that they get better is that we actually embrace the fellowship that we have in Jesus. And we realize that we can't do this alone. Like none of us can do this alone. And that your gifting is not your identity. Your identity comes through Christ. So that what that does is say, I'm not looking at Ty as a rapper. I'm looking at Ty as a son of God.
Correct.
My brother in Christ. So everything doesn't fall on how Ty can serve me.
Correct.
It falls on how God allows for us to serve each other. Right. And in the same sense, you need accountability just like I need accountability. You need to use your gifts well, just like I need to use my gifts well. You need to be spotlighted for your gifts the same way I think the person who greets should be spotlighted in their gifts, or the person who does hospitality should be spotlighted in their gifts. So we got to do a better job, church. We got to do a better job. Oh, you go. My bad. You the artist. You the artist.
Yeah, but we and artists, please. First off, if you are serving your body and you're really pushing yourself to be a better Christian first before an artist, I applaud you. Thank you for that. Continue to keep doing that. Continue to get the accountability that you need to do that. If you're listening to this podcast and you feel like we were kind of coming at you, we weren't coming at you, but just take that as a...
I was coming at you, bro. You need to be active.
Oh, yeah. But seriously, get active. Like, if you feel like, oh, man, this kind of hurts, take that, pray about it, and, start. I would definitely encourage getting involved with the local body. If you're not a part of a local body, if you are a part of a local body, see what you could do to serve more. And maybe the church is not even the place for you to show off your gifts. Yeah.
Maybe you're in the body to just be a part of the body. I know a couple guys who, they serve their churches and it's not them doing what they do as a career. It's them exercising other gifts that they have inside the church. So maybe that's the way that you should go.
I'm doing that at my church.
Yeah, you're doing it.
Like, serious. All right, we're gonna go deep. But like, don't be focused on being a Christian first. I know that seems weird. Like, God, if you really chasing this thing out, what is for you is for you. I feel like I'm being on it. I know I caught myself.
There we go. I need a drop church cliche.
But seriously, like if you're really seeking God and you're focusing on being a better man or woman to God first, what God has for your artistry, he will open that door for you. So don't worry about that. If you're at your church and you feel like, as Byron is saying, that your gifting is not needed at that church, don't feel no type of way about that. Continue to serve at that church, and opportunities will come if that's what's supposed to happen. So
yeah, and pastors, man, pay these musicians, man. If these musicians are putting in work, if it's a part-time job for them, then you need to be paying them, right? Like you need to bless them, because if they're taking their time to ensure that the level of worship is at a certain place, I think you should pay them. Musicians, you should not be making your living off of a church.
Facts.
And you should not be making your living off of multiple churches. There's no biblical evidence for that. There's no biblical backing for that. The biblical backing for you as a musician actually is that you give yourself over to the church as a full-time, like almost like a full-time servant or a full-time minister for that church. And in doing that, the church cares for your needs.
There we go.
On both sides, we need to reshape how we're looking at this biblically so that we can work together and do the thing that is most important. Create a space where we are worshiping the God of the universe so intimately that we don't even think about money. We're not even thinking about platform. We're not even thinking about whatever strained relationships there might be within the church and with artists. But we're thinking about Jesus and Jesus alone. So
with that being said, because I know this is something I struggle with. I know this is something Lamar Riddick struggled with just personally. With what Byron is saying, still know your worth as an artist, but remember you're serving first. For example, There's nothing wrong with having a rate, but if a church is reaching out to you, have your rate. But if they can't, make that decision if you want to do it first or not. But say they don't have the financial needs to get what your rate is. Work with these people. If you feel like God is calling you to, I feel like don't get so caught up in this is my rate, and if you can't do it, I can't. Like we're serving first, so it's like if you can help out, as Byron is saying, you may not be able to do your full set, but still figure out something. Work with their budget to get there. I know some artists that they struggle with, like, should I charge for services, this, that, and the third. I think it's a case by case.
Artists definitely charge.
Like,
charge.
Don't get hoodwinked out here.
Yeah. But if you're a part of a church and you feel like this will bless the body, like if this is like not a church you're visiting, I'm talking about like a church you're a member at. You feel like this will bless the body. Like, don't be afraid of just saying like, nah, I'm doing this for the body. Right.
Correct.
So with that being said, I think we did good.
You know what I'm saying? That's another episode of He's the Pastor. I'm the Rapper Podcast.
Why you got your mouth sideways?
You know what I'm saying? Ty Van, aka Tay the Crucifix, aka your pastor's favorite rapper.
Yeah.
We got Byron L, Cogdell over there.
Yo, I'm about to rap.
Go ahead.
Yo, thinking of a master plan. Now I'm thinking of my master's plan. I'm just thinking of my master, man. Oh, that's all I got. That
was hard.
Hey, you're more than welcome to steal that. Hey, you can follow me at Byron L Cogdell on everything. And guess what? I'm on TikTok now. So y'all can follow me on TikTok, Byron L Cogdell on TikTok. And you can also follow identitydaytona.org. And look, you might be listening to this and you might say, I love hearing these brothers talk. I love to hear them talk even more. I need to move to Daytona Beach and be a part of this new church plan that they are blessing this city with. Come to death row, as they say. Look, man, we'd love to have you. You got anything else?
Yeah. So on all social media platforms, it's I am Ty Van. Follow the Hiphop Collective I'm a part of. That's at Crew, the number 4. Jesus. Also, this Friday, July 2nd.
Yes, sir.
All right, hold on. Turn the music down, bro. This is it. This is funny. All right, so we record these things early. I just want to be real.
You ain't got to tell them that every week.
Bro, I don't care. Like, I think this week is gonna be like June 26th, but it just feels weird saying like this Friday, my record is coming out because it's like 2 weeks from now. But July 2nd, I got a record coming out. I apologize. Stream that. You can pre-order right now on Apple. I just saw the link for it this morning. I got happy. So you can pre-order. It's 99 cents. That really supports your boy. We're just streaming if you ain't got the money to do it. It's called I Apologize. We out. Oh, yeah.